And this one's a competitive resource conversion game where players are trying to get the most victory points at the end of the game. But we are starting off with a bang here because this one is my own personal pick of the week. And the reason for that is that this doesn't look like a super complicated game, and it doesn't look like it's trying to do too much, but what it does do, I think it's going to do really, really well. It also has a few really cool ideas that I haven't really seen in any other games, and I'll just go over a couple of those just to kind of give you an idea of what this game's offering. And what we're looking at here is the game set up for 4 players, with each player having their own personal player boards where they're going to have a bunch of different buildings on them. And then there's going to be a main board in the middle where players can deploy those buildings to different locations in order to gain the benefits there. But there's also a point tracker in the top left corner here and a turn tracker in the top right. And in most games, the point tracking and the player order are normally the least exciting aspects of a game, but in this one it actually makes those things really, really fun. This is the point tracker here, and as you're earning points, you're going to be moving around and making loops around this board. But what's really cool about it is that every time you get 10 victory points, you're going to be jumping back to the start of the board, but you also get to draw one of these cards, which is worth 10 victory points at the end of the game, so you will be maintaining that. But it also grants you some sort of random reward. So you'll be able to look at that and gain that benefit, and of course you still do get those points. I really like this because not only does it make getting victory points a little bit more exciting, but I think it's also going to introduce a little bit of a decision point where if you are close to that 10 victory point threshold, you might want to invest in just getting a couple victory points really quick for that instant bonus, rather than maybe investing in something else in the game. But then we have the turn order tracker, and this is a really interesting aspect of the game because this is a game where players can take pretty much as many turns as they are able to, which means that some players might be able to take more turns than others, or some players might want to pass early in order to save some of their resources for a following round. But this game introduces some more incentive to want to pass early because not only is it going to be moving you up in the player count for the following round, but as soon as you pass, you're going to be moving your colored player token into the leftmost unoccupied column. This means that you're going to be getting the reward in that location, but the rewards don't stop there because if the other players continue to play out more rounds and you're missing more and more turns because you've already passed, each time it comes back to you, you'll be able to move that token one space lower, getting an additional reward. I'm not saying this doesn't exist anywhere, but I have never seen this mechanism in any other game, and I really do like this, and I wish I saw it in more games. But we haven't even got into the gameplay yet, so let's go ahead and check out the way that a round plays, and this is a game that plays over a series of rounds, and at the start of each round, players are going to be gaining 2 different cards. There's a resource card, and then there is a skill card. Both of these cards are divided into 2 halves, allowing you to choose which side of the card that you want to take, with the resources just being granted to you instantly, but then the skill card is going to be placed into the bottom of your board so that you can only see the side that you chose. This is going to give you a new ability that you can use for the rest of the game, but you can see this little outlined section in the bottom right here, and that indicates that you do need to place a skill token on it in order to activate it. And like I said, you can take as many actions that you want on your turn, and some of your actions are going to be activated through using those limited skill tokens, and you can gain more of those as the game goes on. But then there's other actions that might just require you to spend a certain amount of resources. For example, if you want to place one of your buildings out onto the main board. One thing to note here is that each player does also have a companion that can grant you with different resources or actions that you can take advantage of each and every round. The other cool thing about your player board and getting those buildings out onto the main board is that anytime that you do that, you're going to be uncovering the location where you took that building from, and you always do have to start from the bottom moving up. Every time you do that, you're going to be unlocking the different resources that were associated with that building on your board, meaning that you're going to gain those resources at the start of each of the following rounds so you're able to keep that building off your board. And getting and keeping these buildings off your board is the main spotlight of the game, and when you do take a building off your board, you're going to be putting it on these rightmost boards that are all stacked up on top of each other, and you'll be able to put it on any location that you want and then gain that resource. But the only catch here is that you can't place a building higher than where your token is on the left track. Of course, you can use another turn to pay resources in order to push your token up even higher. And of course, that is beneficial because it could give you access to other boards that you're not going to be competing with other players for. But there is another benefit to doing this because at the end of each round, the bottom 2 boards are going to be falling off and being removed from the game. And all those tokens that players have put out on them are going to be going back to your own personal player boards. This means that the spaces that you previously uncovered are then going to going to become covered again, and then you're not going to be getting those bonuses. But since only 2 boards are returned each round, that means if you push up your token high enough, you could actually keep buildings out for 2 rounds, or if you get all the way to the top, you could actually keep your buildings out for 3 or 4 rounds. That, of course, is why this game is called Fallen, and I really do like what I'm seeing with this one. It looks like a really solid design without a whole bunch of fluff, and I'll definitely be checking out once the campaign launches. So if you think this one looks interesting too, you can go ahead and find it in the description down below, and of course click that notify me button.